When you open up a flow for the first time, by default the template properties form will be displayed. Here you can see the default template properties form. You must fill in some of the fields in order to have a running flow. Let's look at these. First of all, we have title. We must give this a title, and I'm going to call it training. If you see later on that we have some defaults in the flow options that we can set up, it's automatically got flow server as the start flow server. I can choose manually to change this, and as you can see, it's an email address. I have public folders set up under a workflows folder, and for running flows that have been started, I've chosen to put it into the running flows public folder. On completion, I've asked to move them to a completed flows folder. However, I could delete them if I no longer need them. Any messages for exception handling, errors or overdue messages can be managed here by either sending by default to the originator, to the manager, or to another recipient, chosen of course either by role or by Exchange global address list. Finally, if we need to, we can restrict access on the audit trail by either allowing or restricting the modification of application data items. We can restrict this either to the originator of the flow, and or to the manager of the flow, and or to another user or role. By default, everyone has access to modify application data. Moving on, notice that by default, under the options, I've set write status to log files. If we have this set, I must put in a log file name. This becomes a table under SQL Server or Microsoft Access or Oracle. The default for count days to due times is in calendar days rather than work days. That's also set up under options. Message delivery options, under each of these I have a number of ways I can send. Typically I can send this as a full task message. This sends everything that the message needs to know to the recipient so that they can run in an offline manner. If they want to be web enabled but work through a thin client, you send a URL notification, or if you're using web workflow, you can deliver the task to a web workflow folder. Something that we're not covering in this course is XML. We have options to send the workflow messages as XML documents to the recipient, XML objects to a server, or XML objects to a server for subsequent routing to recipients. This really requires advanced programming, which is not covered in this course. With for your information messages, we have the same set of options. Send a full message for thick clients who wish to be able to view offline, URL for online web access, deliver to web workflow for online web access, or as XML. Finally, for people who don't want to use Workflows Designer form or standard forms, then you can just send for your information messages as plain text to recipients. We're going to take the full message to recipient as normal. If we're using a URL, we can replace the default text with some alternative text, which gives more information to the user. And if we're using XML servers, then we can say which XML server this is going to be. And we need an email address for the recipient of the XML message. Finally, down here, we have a chance to replace the alert message body text with our own alert message body text. Now, moving on to scripting. We haven't got any scripting libraries set up yet, so for this flow we're going to have a look at this later on. And finally, the About template allows us to enter details about the object itself, the author, the version, copyright information, and a general description.